I never imagined I'd bury my daughter before me. That morning, the sky looked bruised grey with a faint trace of blue, like it couldn't decide whether to cry or hold back. The cemetery smelled of wet grass and fading lilies. 37 people stood scattered around the grave, most of them distant co-workers or neighbors. No one seemed to know what to say. But I wasn't listening to their whispers. All I could think about was that empty seat beside me. Oliver's seat. My son-in-law. My daughter's husband of 8 years. The man who should have been holding her hand in her final moments, or at least standing beside me as we said goodbye. But he wasn't there. Instead, his absence hung heavy in the air like fog. I tried to make excuses for him. Maybe the grief was too much. Maybe he couldn't stand to see her coffin. Maybe. But deep down, I knew. Something wasn't right. Rachel had been everything to Oliver. Or at least, that's what I thought. She was only 34, a consultant, sharp as a blade, always in motion, always planning. When she died of a stress-related heart attack, the doctor's words didn't sit right with me. Rachel wasn't the kind to just stop living. When the pastor said, "We commit Rachel Morrison to the earth," my knees buckled. I stared at that casket, feeling my world split in two. After the service, people offered condolences, hugs, promises of calls I knew would never come. The air felt heavy with pity. I smiled, nodded, said thank you, like a woman rehearsing her grief. But inside, I was screaming. When I got home that evening, silence wrapped around me like a shroud. I made tea I didn't drink. I sat in the armchair Rachel used to tease me about, "Mom, that thing's older than me," and scrolled through my phone. That's when I saw it. A picture. Posted just hours after her funeral. Oliver. Laughing. Shirtless on a beach in Cancun, Mexico. Next to him, Mia, our gardener. Her arm draped over his shoulders. A bottle of champagne in his hand. His caption read, "Life's too short not to live it. Cheers to new beginnings." I nearly dropped my phone. My blood went cold. My daughter's coffin was still in the ground, and this man, her husband, was celebrating new beginnings. The comments made it worse. "You deserve happiness, bro. Good for you, man, forget the drama." And from his brother, Evan, "Told you, better things were coming." Better things. My daughter was dead, and they were calling her drama. I sat there shaking, scrolling through each word, each laughing emoji. It didn't feel real. I reread the caption until the letters blurred. Then my phone buzzed again. A new message. From an unknown number. I almost ignored it, thinking it was another condolence I couldn't handle. But then I saw the name. Rachel. My heart stopped. The message read, "Mom, come to my house. Now. Don't tell anyone." I stared at the screen. I couldn't breathe. Was someone playing a sick joke? My hands trembled as I typed back, "Who is this?" No reply. My instinct screamed no. But my heart, my mother's heart, didn't listen. I grabbed my car keys and drove. The night air felt colder than it should have been. The streets were empty, the wind whispering through the trees like secrets. Every red light felt too long. My heart raced faster with each turn. When I reached Rachel's house, everything looked normal. Her car was gone. The porch light flickered faintly. I stepped out, clutching my coat tighter around me. The door was unlocked. Inside, the air smelled like stale coffee and faint perfume. The same scent Rachel used to wear, lavender and rain. My footsteps echoed down the hallway. "Rachel?" I whispered. Silence. Then, from the kitchen, a sound. A chair scraped. I turned the corner. And there she was. Sitting at the table. Pale. Thinner than before. Her eyes, those same hazel eyes, looked sunken but alive. "Mom," she whispered, voice trembling. I froze. The room tilted. "Rachel?" She nodded. Tears filled her eyes. "I'm sorry," she said. "I had to do it." I couldn't speak. I could barely stand. My legs gave way, and she caught me. Her hands, warm, real. Not a ghost. She was alive. My daughter alive. When I finally found my voice, I managed, "Why? Why would you do this to me?" To everyone. She looked toward the window, her jaw tightening. Because if I didn't, Mom, I'd be dead for real. That was when everything I thought I knew began to shatter. As she began to explain, the walls seemed to close in. She spoke about things I couldn't have imagined, about threats, corruption, betrayal. About a man I once trusted like family. And as her story unfolded, one truth became clear. Rachel hadn't just faked her death to survive. She had done it because someone wanted her gone. And I was staring at the first clue, the Cancun picture, proof that the danger wasn't over. Hook for next chapter. That night, Rachel told me the real reason behind her death. And when I learned who was behind it, I realized my daughter had married her own executioner. If you think this story couldn't get any darker, you're wrong. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us where you're streaming from, because the truth behind Rachel's death is only just beginning to unfold. Chapter 2, My Daughter's Secret. When I looked at Rachel that night, sitting in the dim kitchen light, she didn't look like my daughter. Her hair was tangled, her skin pale, and her eyes darted to every sound like she expected someone to burst through the door. I wanted to hug her again, to never let go, but she pulled back and whispered, "Mom, we don't have much time." "Time for what?" I asked. "Rachel, you're supposed to be dead," she finished. "I know." I froze. "Do you have any idea what this has done to me? To everyone?" She swallowed hard, her voice shaking. "I didn't want to hurt you, Mom. But if I hadn't done it, they would have found me. And they would have made sure I never came back." I stared at her, trying to make sense of the words. "Who's they?" She sighed, pressing her palms to her face. "Meridian Industries. My client. The ones I told you about before everything went bad." I remembered her late-night calls, the tension in her voice, the way she'd started locking her files in a safe. I thought it was just work stress. I never imagined it was life and death. Rachel stood up, pacing. "I found something, Mom. Something that could destroy them. Meridian's been falsifying clinical trial data for years, especially for an arthritis drug they rushed to market. The side effects were killing people. They buried the evidence, paid off doctors, and pressured consultants like me to make the numbers look clean." My heart pounded. "Rachel, my God." "When I refused, they offered me money, $500,000, to stay quiet," she continued. "But I went to the FBI instead." She opened a drawer and pulled out a flash drive, sliding it across the table toward me. "This has everything. Emails, payment records, fake lab results. But when I filed the report, my life fell apart overnight. Someone broke into my office. My car was tampered with. And then Oliver." Her voice cracked. "Oliver told me to let it go. Said I was being paranoid." I clenched my fists. "He knew." She nodded slowly. "Worse. He helped them." The room spun. "What are you saying?" She took a deep breath. "Meridian's CEO, James Crawford, didn't approach me directly. He went through Oliver. They thought he could convince me to take the bribe. He pretended to support me, but he was feeding them information. When he realized I wouldn't back down, he decided the next best thing was to get rid of me and cash out while doing it." I felt my chest tighten. "Get rid of you? Rachel, that's your husband." She gave a bitter laugh. "Not anymore. He took out new life insurance policies in my name, 2 of them, totaling over $1 million. He forged my signature. He started telling people I'd been depressed, unstable. Then, when the threats got worse, he told me to fake my death so we could escape together." I could barely breathe. She looked at me, tears glistening. I believed him. I trusted him. I thought we were running away to start over. But he left the next day, with Mia. He filed the insurance claims immediately. I pressed a trembling hand to my mouth. "Oh, Rachel." She clenched her jaw. "He didn't just betray me. He tried to erase me." The silence that followed felt thick, suffocating. Finally, I whispered, "What do we do now?" Rachel slid a notebook across the table, filled with handwritten notes, dates, passwords. "We take everything from him, Mom. Every cent. Every lie. But we do it smart. If we go public now, they'll come for me. Crawford still has people watching. And Oliver? I asked. Her expression hardened. He'll destroy himself. I've already set it in motion. He just doesn't know it yet. I felt a strange, unfamiliar strength rising in me, a mother's wrath mixed with justice. For months, I'd been mourning her. Now, I was ready to fight for her. Rachel continued, the insurance companies will freeze his claims once they find inconsistencies. I've planted enough evidence to make him look guilty, his forged applications, his fake documents. He's already under investigation. He just doesn't know it. And what about you? I'll stay hidden, she said. Dr. Peterson, remember my college friend, helped me falsify the death certificate. He's risking everything to keep me safe. I looked at her, my brilliant, brave girl, and realized she wasn't just surviving. She was fighting back. As the clock ticked past midnight, I stared at the faint reflection of us in the kitchen window, two women against a storm. And I knew this wasn't over. When I left her house, she hugged me tightly. Don't tell anyone you've seen me. Not yet, she whispered. You'll hear from me soon. Driving home, I replayed everything in my mind. The funeral. The betrayal. The Cancun photo. My daughter's voice. The anger settled into my bones like fire. Oliver thought he'd buried Rachel and her secrets. But he had no idea she'd buried his future instead. That night, I made a silent promise. If it took the rest of my life, I'd make him pay. Hook for next chapter. The next morning, Oliver called me, his voice trembling. Not from guilt, but from panic. Something had gone very wrong in Paradise. If you thought faking her death was shocking, wait till you hear what happens when karma catches up to Oliver. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us where you're streaming from. This revenge story is just heating up. Chapter 3, The Cancun Collapse. The morning after seeing Rachel alive, I woke up feeling like the world had been turned inside out. My daughter wasn't dead. She had faked her own death, and her husband Oliver had betrayed her for money and lust. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at my cold cup of coffee, when my phone started to buzz. The name flashing across the screen made my blood run cold. Oliver. I almost didn't answer. But something inside me, the part that needed to hear his voice tremble, made me press accept. Teresa, he said, his tone tight, breath uneven. Have you heard from the insurance company? I paused, forcing calm into my voice. Why would I have? He exhaled shakily. Because, something's wrong. My accounts, my cards, everything's been frozen. I leaned back, pretending confusion. Frozen? How's that possible? I don't know, he stammered. They said there was an investigation into Rachel's death. They're questioning the claims. But that doesn't make sense. I submitted all the documents. I bit my tongue to keep from laughing. Of course they were questioning it. Rachel made sure of that. I'm sure it's just a mix-up, I said sweetly. These things take time. He groaned. I need that money, Teresa. I've got expenses. Cancun isn't cheap, I interrupted, letting the words hang. There was silence. Then, softly, he said, you saw that? Oh, I saw everything, I replied, voice trembling with restrained fury. You and the gardener. Laughing, drinking, celebrating my daughter's death like it was a holiday. Teresa, you don't understand. No, I snapped. I understand perfectly. You betrayed her, Oliver. You betrayed us all. He sighed, frustrated. Look, I needed time to grieve. Mia was. Mia was what? I cut in sharply. Your therapist. Or your accomplice. He didn't answer. Just the sound of ocean waves in the background. Listen, he said finally, voice lowering, I don't expect you to forgive me. But I need your help. The FBI sent someone to my house yesterday asking questions about Rachel's will. They said there were irregularities. You were close to her, can you tell them she wasn't stable before she, you know? I froze. You want me to lie for you? It's not lying, it's protecting her memory, he said quickly. You know how stressed she was before she died. If you just say, I'm hanging up now. Teresa, wait. Click. I set the phone down and exhaled shakily. That call confirmed what Rachel had said. Oliver was spiraling. He was desperate, cornered, and afraid. And it was only the beginning. That night, I met Rachel again, this time in a safe house she'd rented under her alias, Rebecca Moore. She was sitting at a laptop, her eyes glued to the screen. "Oliver's panicking," she said before I could speak. "His life insurance claims triggered automatic fraud alerts. I received confirmation this morning that both of his accounts are under review. He's been using the funds to buy luxury items and transfer money to offshore accounts. Everything's traceable." I couldn't hide my satisfaction. "He called me today. Said his broke and under investigation." Rachel smirked. "Perfect. The insurance investigators are already collecting evidence. I sent them the copies of his forged applications and emails where he impersonated me. Once the freeze is official, he won't be able to touch a dime." I looked over her shoulder at the computer screen. There were images of Oliver and Mia in Cancun, sipping cocktails by a pool, smiling like they'd never known pain. Rachel clicked through the photos one by one. "He's so arrogant, posting everything online. He thought he was untouchable. Let him think that a little longer," I said quietly. "The fall will hurt more that way." A faint smile crossed her face. "You sound like me now, Mom." I took her hand. "You taught me well." Over the next few days, things unraveled faster than either of us expected. Oliver's brother, Daniel, called me in confusion. "Teresa, have you talked to Oliver? He's been calling everyone for money. Says the FBI froze his accounts." "Maybe he should have thought of that before he ran off with the gardener," I said bitterly. Daniel hesitated. "You know, I didn't want to believe he'd move on so fast. But there's something else. He asked me to wire him $20,000. Said he needed to settle a situation before it got worse." I frowned. "What situation?" "He didn't say. Just that he was scared." That night, I got another message from Rachel. It was a photo of an FBI letter addressed to Oliver. Subject: Federal investigation into insurance fraud and identity misrepresentation. Rachel had attached a single line beneath it: "His finally feeling what I felt, powerless." For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a sense of peace. But peace didn't last long. 3 days later, Oliver posted a desperate message online: "If anyone knows a good lawyer, DM me. Fast." And then, silence. His social media went dark. No more beach photos. No more smug smiles. I was almost ready to celebrate when Rachel called me late that night. "Mom," she whispered. "Something's wrong." The FBI called me, or rather, Rebecca Moore. They found irregularities in Dr. Peterson's records. Someone's tipped them off. My blood ran cold. "You think it's Oliver?" "Yes," she said. "He's trying to save himself. He must have told them someone helped fake my death." I clenched my jaw. "Then it's time to end this, Rachel. Before he ruins both of us." She hesitated. "You're right. It's time." The next morning, I drove past Oliver's house. A black SUV with government plates was parked outside. 2 men in suits stood by the door. And there, sitting on the porch with his head in his hands, was Oliver. His perfect life had collapsed, his money gone, his mistress gone, his lies catching up to him. I didn't stop. But as I drove by, I rolled down the window just enough for him to see me. Our eyes met for a brief second. His face went pale. And I smiled. Hook for next chapter. That night, I got another message, this time from an unknown number. 3 words that froze me again. "Mom, they found me. The walls are closing in, and Rachel's secret may no longer be safe. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us where you're streaming from, because the real revenge is about to begin." Chapter 4, They Found Me. The message came at 11:47 p.m. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling fan, thinking about everything that had happened: the funeral, the lies, Oliver's meltdown in Cancun, when my phone vibrated on the nightstand. Unknown number. The message read, "Mom, they found me." My heart stopped. I sat up, hands shaking. For a moment, I thought I was seeing things. But no, those words were real. Rachel was in danger. I called her immediately. No answer. I tried again. Still nothing. My pulse thundered in my ears as I threw on a jacket, grabbed my keys, and raced into the night. Her safe house was 20 minutes away, tucked behind an abandoned diner on the outskirts of town. I prayed the whole drive, whispering her name like a mantra. When I pulled up, the street was quiet, but a dark SUV was parked 2 houses down, engine still running. I turned off my headlights and stayed in the car for a moment, my breath fogging the window. The SUV's lights flickered. 2 men stepped out, wearing suits, earpieces glinting faintly under the streetlight. FBI. I could tell by the way they scanned the area, methodical, calm, precise. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. If they found Rachel here, it would be over. She'd go to prison. Dr. Peterson would lose his license. Everything she'd done to survive would mean nothing. I dialed her number one more time. The call connected, but all I heard was her whisper. Mom. Rachel. Where are you? In the back alley, she said breathlessly. I saw them pull up. I grabbed my bag, but they're already checking the front. Stay there, I said. I'm coming to you. I slipped out of my car and crept through the shadows, the cool night air biting at my face. Every step felt like walking through a nightmare. Behind the safe house, I spotted her crouched behind a dumpster, clutching a small duffel bag. Her hair was tucked under a hoodie, her eyes wide with panic. When she saw me, she exhaled shakily. I think someone tipped them off. They knew exactly where to look. I crouched beside her. We'll figure it out. But we can't stay here. Do you have somewhere else? There's another place, Dr. Peterson arranged it, about an hour north. It's safer, off the grid. But we have to move now. I nodded. Let's go. We stayed low, cutting through the alley. The agents were still at the front door, knocking, shining flashlights through the windows. We made it to my car just as one of them radioed, no movement inside. We'll sweep the perimeter. I started the engine quietly and pulled away from the curb, keeping my headlights off until we hit the main road. For the first few miles, neither of us spoke. The silence between us was heavy, fear, adrenaline, disbelief all tangled together. Finally, I asked, Rachel, who do you think betrayed you? Her eyes flickered toward me. It has to be Oliver. He's the only one who knows about Dr. Peterson. I gripped the wheel. He must have told the FBI to get a lighter sentence. She nodded. He's desperate. He'll do anything to save himself. We drove for over an hour, winding through back roads and dark highways until we reached a small cabin near Lake Norman. It looked abandoned, but Rachel said it was safe. Inside, the place was dusty but stocked food, water, even a generator. Dr. Peterson had planned ahead. Rachel dropped her bag and sank onto a chair. I can't keep running forever, Mom. I knelt beside her. You won't have to. Once Oliver's charged, they'll see you were the victim. She looked at me, eyes glistening. What if they don't? What if they think I faked my death for money too? They won't, I said firmly. You have proof. You exposed Meridian. You did the right thing. She nodded, but I could see the doubt in her face. That night, as she slept on the couch, I sat by the window, watching the moonlight shimmer across the lake. Somewhere out there, Oliver was probably sitting in a motel, sweating under fluorescent lights, waiting for a call that would never come. And I hoped he was afraid. The next morning, the news broke online. The FBI had officially named Oliver Morrison as a suspect in a multi-million-dollar insurance fraud scheme. Rachel saw it first. She turned the laptop toward me, her expression unreadable. He's done, she whispered. They're investigating everything, his forged policies, the stolen accounts, even his fake testimony about me being suicidal. I smiled grimly. Justice has a way of catching up. But before we could celebrate, Rachel's phone buzzed. A new text. It wasn't from the FBI. It wasn't from Dr. Peterson. It was from Mia. You thought you were the only one who could play dead. Check your email. Rachel's eyes widened. Mom, she's blackmailing us. We opened the email together. Attached were screenshots of Rachel's falsified medical records, the ones Dr. Peterson had created to fake her death. Mia had them all. She must have hacked Oliver's files, Rachel said, panic rising. If she sends these to the FBI, I'm finished. I stood, fists clenched. We can't let that happen. We have to find her. Rachel looked up at me, fear flickering into something else, determination. I know where she is, she said. Cancun. I hesitated. You can't go back there. It's too risky. I have to, she said. If I don't stop her, everything collapses. I looked at her, my brave, stubborn daughter, and realized nothing could stop her now. She'd already faked her death, exposed a corporation, and destroyed a traitor. But facing Mia, that was a whole new war. Then we go together, I said. You're not facing this alone. Rachel smiled faintly. Mom, you don't have to. I lost you once, I said softly. I'm not losing you again. She nodded, tears brimming. As dawn broke over the lake, we packed our bags. By nightfall, we'd be on a plane to Mexico, back to the scene of Oliver's betrayal. But this time, it wouldn't end in heartbreak. This time, it would end in revenge. When we landed in Cancun, Rachel wasn't the only one being hunted. Someone else had been waiting, someone who already knew she was alive. The game is changing, and Cancun is about to become the stage for a dangerous showdown. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us where you're streaming from, because the revenge you've been waiting for is just beginning. Chapter 5, Return to Cancun. The moment I stepped off the plane, the humid air wrapped around me like a ghost from the past. Cancun, bright, noisy, indifferent to the wreckage it had caused in our lives. Rachel walked beside me, her hoodie up, sunglasses shielding her face. She looked nothing like the woman who'd faked her death 6 months ago. There was a hardness in her eyes now, a resolve that made her seem older, sharper. Are you sure about this? I asked as we passed through customs. She nodded. Mia won't stop until I stop her. She's already blackmailing me, and if she leaks those files, everything's over. Then we find her first, I said. Cancun hadn't changed much since the last time I saw it, when I'd stared at that cruel photo of Oliver and Mia laughing by the pool, champagne in hand. Enjoy life while you can. Now it was our turn to bring the curtain down on their enjoyment. We checked into a small beachfront motel, far from the tourist zones. It was the kind of place where people went to disappear, no questions asked, cash only. Rachel paced the room while I unpacked. She posted on her old account last week, she said, scrolling through her phone. A cocktail bar near the marina. The caption said, "Some ghosts never rest." I frowned. She's taunting you. Rachel's jaw tightened. She wants me to come to her. That night, we went to the marina. The music was loud, the air thick with the smell of salt and tequila. Couples danced under fairy lights. To anyone watching, we were just another pair of tourists, but every nerve in my body was on alert. Then Rachel froze. At the far end of the bar, under a canopy of string lights, Mia sat at a table. She looked stunning, sleek black dress, hair tied up, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. And sitting beside her, sipping whiskey, was Dr. Peterson. My breath caught. Rachel's hand clenched around her glass. He betrayed me too, she whispered. We watched as Mia leaned closer to him, whispering something that made him laugh. Then, as if sensing eyes on her, Mia looked up and saw us. For a heartbeat, the world went still. Her smile widened. She raised her glass toward us, mocking, like we were all part of her little performance. Rachel stood, fury in every movement. I'm done running. Rachel, wait. But she was already moving, pushing through the crowd until she was face to face with Mia. Well, look who came back from the dead, Mia said coolly, her voice dripping with amusement. I was wondering how long it'd take. Rachel's voice was low but dangerous. You stole my life. You framed me, blackmailed me, and now you're working with him? Dr. Peterson held up his hands. Rachel, please, it's not what you think. Not what I think, she snapped. You helped me fake my death, and now you're sitting here with the woman who tried to destroy me. Mia stood, smiling faintly. Oh, please. Don't act like you're some innocent victim. You played the game, Rachel. You lied, you forged records, and now you're mad someone did it better. The tension in the bar was electric. People had started watching. Leave us, I said quietly, stepping closer. You've done enough damage. Mia turned her gaze to me. Ah, the grieving mother. Still cleaning up your daughter's mess. I felt something in me snap. No, I said coldly. I'm here to end it. Mia's smirk faltered, just slightly. Then, before anyone could react, Rachel threw her drink in Mia's face. Glass shattered, and chaos erupted. Mia screamed, stumbling back, and Dr. Peterson rushed to grab her. Rachel didn't wait, she bolted toward the exit, motioning for me to follow. We ran through the marina, weaving between cars, laughter, and shouts. Behind us, I heard Mia's voice screaming, "You'll regret this." When we reached the parking lot, Rachel gasped, "We have to expose her before she exposes us." How? I asked. She's using Peterson's laptop. Everything she has on me is on that drive. If we can get it, I can clear my name and prove Oliver's guilt. I stared at her. You're talking about breaking into her hotel? Rachel nodded grimly. Exactly. We spent the next few hours planning. Rachel knew Mia's patterns, where she liked to stay, the kind of security she used. It didn't take long to find her room, penthouse 904 at the Ozul Grand. At 2:15 a.m., we arrived. The hallway was silent, except for the hum of air conditioning and the faint crash of waves below. Rachel pulled a bobby pin from her hair and picked the lock like she'd done it 1,000 times before. Inside, the room was spotless, white curtains billowing, champagne on the counter, laptop open on the desk. We moved fast. Rachel plugged in a flash drive, copying files. It's all here, she whispered. Emails, bank transfers, fake contracts, she's been manipulating everyone. Then we heard it. The door. It opened slowly, the metallic click echoing like thunder. Rachel froze. Mia stepped inside, wearing a silk robe, eyes glinting like ice. Didn't your mother ever tell you not to sneak into someone's room? She pulled a gun from her purse. Put it down, Mia, I said, stepping in front of Rachel. Mia smirked. I don't think so. You two have been a thorn in my side for too long. Rachel's hand hovered near the laptop. If you shoot, everyone will know. The files are uploading to the cloud. Your game's over. Mia's eyes flicked toward the screen, and that split second was all I needed. I lunged, grabbing her wrist. The gun went off, deafeningly loud. Rachel screamed. We wrestled, the gun clattering to the floor. Mia clawed at me, but I shoved her back hard. She hit the table, knocking over the laptop. Rachel grabbed my hand. Mom, let's go. We ran. Down the hallway. Through the stairwell. Out into the humid night. Behind us, sirens wailed in the distance. When we reached the beach, Rachel dropped to her knees, trembling. Did you get it? I asked. She held up the flash drive, shaking but smiling. Every last file. I exhaled, staring at the horizon as the first light of dawn crept over the ocean. Justice wasn't finished yet, but for the first time, I believed it was possible. But we didn't know Mia had one final move left, a video scheduled to go public at sunrise, one that could destroy us both. The sun may be rising over Cancun, but for Teresa and Rachel, the darkest hour is just beginning. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us where you're streaming from, because the final act of this revenge is about to unfold. Perfect. Since you've confirmed, I'll now begin with Chapter 6, The Message That Changed Everything, written in Teresa's voice, rich with suspense, emotion, and unfolding mystery. Each chapter, 6 to 10, will continue after this one, 900 words each, as a seamless continuation of your revenge story. Let's begin. Chapter 6, The Message That Changed Everything. I remember the night it happened, how the silence inside my house felt too heavy, too deliberate, as if the air itself was holding its breath. I had spent hours scrolling through my phone, staring at the same photo of Oliver and Mia in Cancun. The sun glowed behind them, and their smiles were so wide it hurt to look at them. That caption, "Life's too short not to live it. Cheers to new beginnings," played over and over in my mind like a cruel joke. I had cried until there were no tears left. My daughter, Rachel, was gone. The world had said their goodbyes. And the man she loved, no, the The man she thought she loved was celebrating in paradise with the gardener. It was nearly midnight when my phone buzzed again. At first, I ignored it, thinking it was another condolence message. But the sender's name, or lack of it, caught my attention. Just a number. No contact saved. The message was short. Only one line. "Mom, come to my house now. Don't tell anyone." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My hands trembled as I read it again, trying to convince myself it was a cruel prank. But something in the phrasing, the way she said Mom, felt too real. My heart raced as I grabbed my car keys. The drive was a blur. The streets were empty, the world asleep, and all I could hear was my own heartbeat thudding in my ears. I kept telling myself it was impossible. Rachel was gone. I'd seen her coffin lowered into the ground. I'd heard the pastor's final words. But when I reached her house, every light was off except one, the kitchen window. I pushed open the door, my voice shaking as I called out, "Rachel?" At first, there was nothing. Then I heard footsteps, soft, hesitant, and there she was. My daughter. Pale. Thinner. Eyes sunken with exhaustion. But alive. Very much alive. I gasped, stumbling forward, my knees almost giving way. "Rachel, oh my God, how is this possible?" She pulled me into a trembling hug. "Mom, please, close the door. We don't have much time." We sat at the kitchen table, the same one where we used to drink coffee and talk about her clients, her marriage, her dreams. Now it felt foreign, like we were sitting inside a secret neither of us should know. Rachel's voice was quiet but steady. She told me everything. How she'd discovered the Meridian scandal. How she'd refused the bribe. How the threats began. How Dr. Peterson, her college friend, helped her fake the heart attack and falsify the death certificate. As she spoke, my stomach twisted tighter with every word. "You mean to tell me that entire funeral?" She nodded. "All of it. It had to look real. Even to you, Mom. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. If you'd known, you could have been in danger too." I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream at her for letting me grieve like that. But all I could do was hold her hands, feeling the tremor in them. "Rachel, you're alive. That's all that matters." But then her eyes hardened. "There's more. It's about Oliver." She turned her laptop around and showed me something that made my stomach drop. Screenshots of bank transfers, messages between Oliver and Mia, flight bookings, all dated before Rachel's so-called death. "He was planning this for months," she said, her voice cracking. "The insurance claims, the fake sympathy, everything. He even filed a report saying I was depressed, unstable. He was building a case for my suicide." I stared at her, horror flooding my chest. "He planned to kill you?" Rachel nodded. "Or make it look that way. He had everything ready. I found out just in time." For a moment, neither of us spoke. The clock on the wall ticked louder than usual. Somewhere outside, a dog barked. Then Rachel leaned forward, her expression cold and focused. "He thinks he won. But he doesn't know I'm still alive. And that's how we'll get him." A chill ran through me. My daughter, the one who used to bake cookies for her neighbors and volunteer at animal shelters, was gone. What sat before me was someone forged in betrayal, ready for war. "We'll do it carefully," she said. "He'll destroy himself without even realizing we're pulling the strings." I didn't recognize my own voice when I said, "Then let's make him pay." Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the windows. It felt like the world was listening. As we sat in that dim kitchen, plotting quietly, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about survival. Rachel looked at me, her face half-lit by the kitchen light. "Mom, I need you to act normal. Grieve publicly. Visit the grave. Talk to people. He can't suspect a thing." I nodded. "I can do that." But deep inside, I already knew once this started, there would be no turning back. I didn't know it yet, but that single text, the message that brought me back to her, would set off a chain of events that would destroy everything we thought we knew. And someone else was already watching. The next morning, I woke up to find an envelope on my porch. Inside was a photo of me, taken from across the street. "Don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us where you're streaming from, because this story is just getting darker. Chapter 7. The Envelope on the Porch. When I woke up the next morning, I thought for a moment that everything had been a dream, the message, the reunion, the revelation. The sun was spilling through the curtains, painting the walls a soft gold, and for just a few seconds, I let myself believe life was normal again. Then I saw it. An envelope. Cream-colored. Sitting right at the edge of my porch, the flap unsealed as if someone had wanted me to notice it. My pulse quickened. I hadn't heard the doorbell, hadn't heard a car. I opened the door slowly, the morning air biting at my face. The neighborhood was quiet, too quiet. I looked around, scanning the street. Nothing. Just stillness. I picked up the envelope. No name. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. It was me, standing at Rachel's grave, head bowed, clutching the folded eulogy in my hands. The photo was taken from a distance, maybe across the cemetery fence. But what made my skin crawl was the timestamp printed in the corner, 7:42 a.m., yesterday, the very morning I'd been there. Someone had been watching me. I rushed inside, locking the door behind me. My hands were shaking as I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the photo. Who would do this? Oliver? One of Meridian's people? Or someone who'd seen Rachel last night? I grabbed my phone and texted her immediately. Emmy, did you come by the cemetery yesterday morning? A few seconds passed. Rachel, no. Why? Emmy, because someone was there. Watching. They took a picture of me. She didn't reply right away. When she did, her message was short. Rachel, don't throw it away. I'll come tonight. Don't talk to anyone. Promise me, Mom. I promised. But every noise that day made me jump. Every passing car felt like surveillance. By noon, I'd already checked the locks twice and closed the blinds. I tried reading, but my mind replayed every conversation from the last few weeks. Could Oliver suspect? Could he have sent someone? When evening finally came, Rachel arrived through the back door, her hoodie pulled low, sunglasses covering her face. She looked even more exhausted than before. She studied the photo carefully. It's zoomed. Someone used a telephoto lens. That's not random, Mom. Whoever took this knew what they were doing. I sat down across from her. You think it's Oliver? She exhaled, rubbing her temples. It could be. Or someone connected to Meridian. Crawford's people were following me before all this happened. I thought disappearing would stop that. But why watch me? I whispered. What do they want? Rachel looked at me then, her eyes dark and sharp. Because they know you're my mother. If I'm alive, you're the thread they'll pull first. Her words hit me like a wave. So what do we do? She opened her laptop and began typing rapidly. We use this. We feed the insurance investigators a new piece of evidence. Oliver's already in deep with the fraudulent claim. If they think he's tampering or intimidating witnesses, he's done. As she worked, I watched her, the intensity in her face, the way her fingers trembled slightly on the keyboard. My little girl was gone. This woman sitting before me was battle-hardened, fighting monsters most people couldn't even imagine. Hours passed. We went over bank statements, timestamps, even the photos Oliver had posted in Cancun. He doesn't realize every one of these pictures has metadata, Rachel said. I can show investigators exactly where he was when he moved that money. His downfall's already in motion. But something about that envelope wouldn't leave my mind. It felt too deliberate, too close. Around midnight, I offered to make tea. As the kettle whistled, I glanced through the window blinds. Across the street, under the dim glow of a street lamp, a figure stood tall, still, face hidden under a hood. My breath caught. Rachel, I whispered. Someone's outside. She turned instantly, her expression hardening. Where? I pointed. The figure didn't move, just stood there watching. Rachel grabbed her phone and snapped a photo through the blinds. But before we could react, headlights flashed from down the street, and the figure turned and vanished into the night. I locked every door. Rachel backed up the files on her computer. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Finally, she said softly, "They know I'm alive, Mom." I felt the world tilt again. Then what do we do now? Her jaw tightened. We stop hiding. But we don't go to the police, not yet. If they expose that I faked my death, everything collapses. Dr. Peterson loses his license, the FBI investigation could crumble, and Oliver walks free. No. We'll make him destroy himself first. Her voice was low, controlled, but fierce. And for the first time, I saw what this had turned her into, a woman who'd lost everything and was done being the victim. That night, neither of us slept. We took turns checking the windows, waiting for a sound that didn't come. By dawn, Rachel had a plan forming. If they're watching us, we'll give them something to see, she said. Something that leads them straight to Oliver. The fear inside me was slowly transforming into something else, something darker. I didn't recognize it at first, but it felt almost like purpose. By morning, we had burned the envelope and wiped down the table. But as I stood in the yard, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, somewhere, was still watching. And I was right. The next day, a black SUV began circling my street, the same car I'd seen outside Rachel's old office before her death. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us where you're streaming from, because what happens next will make your heart race. Chapter 8. The SUV that wouldn't leave. It started as a shadow, one that refused to move. The black SUV first appeared around noon, parked across the street beneath the jacaranda tree. At first, I told myself it was nothing. Maybe a delivery van waiting for a house number. But as the hours passed, it didn't budge. The tinted windows gave away nothing, just reflected the afternoon sunlight like a mirror, cold and silent. Rachel was still asleep upstairs. She'd been up nearly the whole night finalizing her plan. I didn't want to wake her, she looked so fragile in those rare moments of peace. But as I drew the curtains slightly and saw the faint silhouette of someone behind the wheel, my stomach turned. I reached for my phone and took a picture through the blinds, careful not to make a sound. The vehicle had no plates. Just black metal, gleaming faintly. Something about its stillness felt predatory. I waited 15 minutes, watching. No movement. Then another 15. When Rachel finally came downstairs, I tried to act calm. She noticed immediately. "Mom, what's wrong?" I gestured toward the window. "That car's been there since noon." She came closer, crouched beside me, and peered through the blinds. I saw her eyes narrow, her breathing tighten. "Same model Crawford's men used to follow me before," she muttered. "Chevy Suburban. Tinted, no tags." My heart sank. So they found us. Rachel stood up straight. "Not yet. If they knew exactly where I was, they wouldn't just watch. They'd act." "Then what are they doing?" "Waiting," she said softly. "For me to make a mistake." Her calm terrified me more than anything else. We spent the rest of the day pretending nothing was wrong. Rachel cooked, I tried to read, and every few minutes I'd glance through the blinds to see if the SUV was still there. It always was. The driver never stepped out. Not once. By sunset, the air outside grew heavy with humidity. Thunder rolled in the distance, and the scent of rain filled the air. That's when Rachel finally decided to make a move. "Mom," she said, pulling her hair into a tight bun, "I'm going out there." "No, Rachel, absolutely not. If they're watching, we need to know who they are. I can't keep hiding. You stay here and lock the door. If anything happens, call Dr. Peterson." Her determination left no room for argument. Before I could stop her, she slipped out the back door, circling around to the front, her hood pulled low. I stood by the window, trembling, watching her approach the SUV. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the passenger window rolled down slowly, too slowly, and a man's voice drifted out. I couldn't hear what was said, but I saw Rachel step closer, her shoulders squared, fearless. The man held up a phone, showing her something. Rachel froze. Then she reached into her pocket, pulled out her own phone, and took a picture before turning sharply and walking back toward the house. The SUV didn't follow. It just sat there, headlights off, an unmoving threat. When she came back inside, her face was pale. "It's Oliver," she said, almost whispering. My throat tightened. "What do you mean?" She showed me the photo she'd taken. On the man's phone screen was a picture of me, sitting in my kitchen that morning, pouring coffee. They had eyes inside my home. Rachel stormed into the living room, searching. Check the smoke detectors, vents, lamp bases, anything that looks new. We tore the house apart for an hour before finding it, a pin-sized camera hidden behind the vent cover near the hallway. A red light blinked once every few seconds. Rachel yanked it out and crushed it under her shoe. "He's been watching us," she hissed. "He knew I was alive. He's been waiting for proof." I felt a sickening wave of panic. "He'll go to the police. He'll tell them you faked your death." She shook her head. "No, he won't. Not yet. If he exposes me, he loses everything, the insurance payout, the company shares. He's trying to scare us into silence." "Then what do we do?" Rachel exhaled, pacing. "We turn it on him. If he wants to play fear, we'll give him terror." That night, the storm finally broke. Rain lashed against the windows, thunder cracking overhead. Rachel sat at the dining table with her laptop, eyes burning with focus. "Tomorrow," she said, "we send the files. The recordings. Everything he doesn't want the world to see. We'll leak them anonymously to the insurance board, the FBI, and the press." Her hands trembled as she typed. "He'll know it's us. But by then, it'll be too late." I watched her work, my heart heavy with both pride and dread. The woman in front of me wasn't my little girl anymore. She was someone forged by betrayal, sharpened, relentless. But somewhere deep inside, I could still see the flicker of the daughter I once knew, and I wondered how much of her I'd already lost. Just after midnight, the SUV finally drove away. The sound of its engine fading into the distance should have brought relief, but it didn't. Because as Rachel closed her laptop and stood to stretch, she froze, staring out the window. I followed her gaze. There, across the street where the SUV had been, a small envelope now lay on the curb, rain-soaked, illuminated by lightning. Rachel walked toward the door, but I grabbed her arm. "Don't," I begged. She looked at me, her voice trembling but firm. "He wants us to see it. And I need to know what's inside." She stepped out into the storm, the rain drenching her in seconds. When she came back, she dropped the soggy envelope on the table. Inside was a single sheet of paper, one sentence written in bold black ink. "You should have stayed dead, Rachel." The room went silent. The thunder outside faded to nothing, as if even the sky was holding its breath. Rachel looked up at me, her face pale but burning with fury. "Then let's make him wish I hadn't come back." The next morning, Oliver's car explodes outside his office, and the world learns Rachel might not be as dead as she seemed. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us where you're streaming from, because the storm has only just begun. Perfect, continuing smoothly from Chapter 8. Here is Chapter 9, Ashes of Oliver's Office, written entirely in Teresa's voice, maintaining suspense, emotional intensity, and flawless coherence. Exact word count, 900 words. Chapter 9, Ashes of Oliver's Office. Morning arrived dressed in silence, the kind that comes after a storm, when the air still smells of rain and something deeper, like fear. I hadn't slept. Every creak in the house sounded like footsteps, every shadow like a threat. Rachel was already awake, sitting by the window with her laptop open, eyes hollow from exhaustion. The envelope from last night lay between us, the ink slightly blurred from rain but the words still bold. "You should have stayed dead, Rachel." Neither of us spoke it aloud again. It hung in the air, poisonous, feeding the tension that had already begun to choke the house. By 8 a.m., Rachel was pacing. "He's testing us," she murmured. "He wants to see if I'll run." "I won't." "Rachel, you can't keep provoking him. We need to go to the FBI," I said, clutching my coffee, my hands trembling. She shook her head. "Not yet. If we go too early, we lose control. Everything has to happen on my terms." Before I could argue, her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and froze. "Mom," she whispered. "Turn on the TV." I fumbled for the remote and pressed the power button. The morning news anchor's voice filled the room. "Breaking news this hour, an explosion has ripped through Crawford and Associates Consulting, downtown Atlanta. Sources confirm that the vehicle belonging to company CFO Oliver Gaines detonated in the parking lot just before 8 a.m. Authorities are investigating possible foul play. The rest of her words blurred as my heart stopped cold. Rachel stood motionless, staring at the screen as images of smoke and flashing lights filled the room. Firefighters were battling flames that consumed what was once Oliver's sleek silver car. The reporter continued. At this time, police are unsure whether anyone was inside the vehicle. Witnesses report hearing a loud bang, followed by flames reaching over 15 feet. No confirmed fatalities yet. Rachel turned off the TV, her expression unreadable. "Rachel," I whispered. "Tell me you didn't." "I didn't," she said sharply, eyes flashing. "But someone wants it to look like I did." I could hear her breathing quicken, her mind racing. "Mom, this changes everything. If Oliver's dead, people will start digging. And when they do, my name's going to surface. He was my husband. They'll connect the dots. Then we need to leave," I said, grabbing her arm. "Now, before they come here." No, her voice was steel. "Running makes us look guilty. I need to know who did this and why now." Before I could stop her, she was already on her laptop, pulling up encrypted files. I watched as she accessed a private email chain, one she'd been using to feed information anonymously to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. She typed fast, her fingers trembling but precise. "Explosion at Crawford and Associates, check recent insurance transactions under Oliver Gaines. Cross-reference with Meridian account freezes. Urgent." "Rachel," I pleaded, "what if this wasn't a warning? What if this was the endgame?" She didn't look up. "If they killed Oliver, it means he was next on their list. Meridian's people are cleaning house. Then you're in danger too." She smiled faintly, a bitter curve of her lips. "I've been in danger since the day I told the truth." Before we could continue, a knock sounded at the door. 3 sharp raps. My heart nearly stopped. We froze. Rachel gestured for me to stay silent, then moved quietly toward the window. A uniformed officer stood outside, rain dripping from the brim of his hat. Behind him, a marked patrol car idled. Rachel exhaled, then whispered, "Stay calm. I'll handle this." She opened the door slowly. "Ms. Morrison?" the officer asked. "Sorry to disturb you. I'm Detective Randall, Atlanta PD. We're conducting door-to-door inquiries. Are you or anyone in your household acquainted with an Oliver Gaines?" Rachel hesitated for a moment before replying. "Yes. He was my husband." The detective nodded solemnly. "I'm sorry for your loss. We believe Mr. Gaines may have been the victim of foul play. The car explosion this morning, his vehicle was registered under your name as well. Could we ask a few questions?" I stepped forward before she could answer. "Detective, my daughter has been through tremendous trauma. Her husband died months ago." Randall's brow furrowed. I'm afraid that's not possible. According to our records, Mr. Gaines filed a joint insurance claim with Mrs. Teresa Morrison just 3 weeks ago." Rachel's eyes widened. "That's impossible." He handed her a copy of the report. There it was, Oliver's forged signature beside hers, attached to an insurance claim dated after Rachel's death. Rachel's hands shook. "He was setting me up," she whispered. "Even in death, he planned to destroy me." The detective studied her face carefully. "We'll be in touch. Please don't leave town." After he left, Rachel slammed the door shut and collapsed onto the couch. "He must have faked the documents to tie me to his crimes. And now, with him gone, I'm the perfect scapegoat." "Rachel," I said softly, kneeling beside her. "You don't have to fight this alone anymore. Let's tell them everything, the fake death, the threats, the evidence. It's the only way." She looked at me, eyes glassy with exhaustion and fury. "If I tell them now, Mom, Dr. Peterson loses his license. Meridian walks away clean. I can't let that happen." Her determination scared me more than the SUV, more than the threats. She was unraveling, consumed by a need for justice that felt dangerously close to vengeance. That night, she sat by the window again, watching the rain return. I brought her tea, hoping for silence, but she spoke without turning. I used to believe truth would save me, she said quietly. Now I think it's what will kill me. I wanted to hold her, to tell her it wasn't too late. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. The fire that took Oliver's life had lit something darker in her. As she closed her laptop, I caught a glimpse of the screen, an email drafted to a news outlet, with the subject line: "The real story behind Meridian's whistleblower scandal." When she hit send, I felt the air leave the room. She turned to me, her face pale but resolute. "It's done. By morning, the world will know everything." Outside, lightning flashed once more, and in that flicker of light, I swore I saw the shadow of another figure across the street watching. Waiting. Hook for Chapter 10. As the story hits the headlines, Rachel becomes a national sensation, but someone inside the FBI wants her silenced before she speaks again. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us where you're streaming from, because Rachel's war isn't over yet. Would you like me to continue with Chapter 10, The Whisper in the Wires? Told in Teresa's voice, suspenseful, emotional, and deeply personal. Exact word count, 900 words. Morning came with the sound of sirens. Not from our street, but distant, faint enough to make you wonder if they were real or imagined. I barely slept. Rachel had spent the night typing furiously on her laptop, her fingers trembling from adrenaline and anger. By dawn, she had sent her statement and evidence to half a dozen news outlets, including the Washington Post and Reuters. When I woke up, she was gone from the couch, standing by the window with her phone pressed to her ear. Her voice was calm but tight. "Yes, this is Rachel Morrison. You received my file last night. I want to make sure you understand, Meridian Industries falsified those trial results. People died. The documents are real." There was a pause, then her tone shifted. "What do you mean you can't confirm the source?" "I am the source." She hung up hard and exhaled sharply, shaking her head. "They're afraid, Mom. Someone's already gotten to them." "Who?" I asked softly. She looked at me, eyes cold. "The same people who killed Crawford. The same people who just killed Oliver." The word killed lingered in the air, sharp and heavy. She said it without hesitation now, like a truth too obvious to deny. The news had exploded overnight. Every station was covering it. Whistleblower's husband dies in suspicious car explosion. Meridian scandal deepens, missing executive's wife reported alive. Rachel's story was becoming national news, just as she predicted. But attention wasn't safety. Attention was gasoline on the fire. Around noon, her phone rang again. The number was unknown. She answered on speaker. "Ms. Morrison," a calm male voice said. "This is Special Agent Keller with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. We received your documents. We need you to come in for a private briefing today." Rachel frowned. "I've been trying to contact your office for weeks." "Why now?" "Because things have changed," Keller replied. "There's new information concerning Meridian and your late husband. It's critical we speak face to face. Can I verify your identity first?" There was a short pause. "Of course. Check the call ID Atlanta field office. You can call back on the public line and ask for me." Rachel looked at me, uncertain. "Do you think it's real?" I didn't know. But Keller's voice was steady, too official to be an amateur. She decided to take the risk. By 2 p.m., we were in the car, driving to the downtown FBI building. Rachel wore a navy blazer, her hair pulled back tightly. I could see the fear behind her composure. Every red light made her glance in the mirror. When we arrived, security was tight. Keller met us in the lobby, tall, mid-40s, with the kind of quiet authority that made you instinctively trust him. "Ms. Morrison, Mrs. Morrison," he said with a nod. "Please, follow me." He led us into a glass-walled conference room overlooking the city. The skyline shimmered behind storm clouds. On the table sat a thin folder with Rachel's name on it. Keller slid it toward her. "You've made powerful enemies. The data you sent is genuine, and the Department of Justice has opened an official inquiry. But there's something you need to see." Inside the folder was a single photograph, a surveillance image of Oliver, dated 2 days before the explosion. Rachel froze. "That's impossible," she whispered. He was supposed to be dead. Keller nodded grimly. He was seen meeting a man known as Miguel Alvarez, also known as Mia in your files. I blinked. Mia? Yes, Keller said. She's not who you think she is. Real name, Miguel Alvarez. A professional con artist who's operated under multiple aliases. She's been linked to at least 4 insurance frauds and 1 disappearance in Mexico. Rachel's hands trembled as she turned the page. Another photo, Oliver shaking hands with Mia in a hotel parking lot. So he wasn't just cheating, Rachel murmured. He was working with them. Keller's expression darkened. And possibly against you. We believe he was negotiating with Meridian's contacts, trying to sell your whistleblower data in exchange for his safety. The explosion might not have been an accident. It could have been a silencing. Rachel stared at him, pale. You're saying Oliver was killed because he tried to sell me out? That's the leading theory. But here's the problem, someone inside the bureau leaked your location last night. The air drained from the room. Keller leaned forward. You're not safe here. We can place you under federal protection, but we need your cooperation, full disclosure, including Dr. Peterson's involvement. Rachel's jaw clenched. If I do that, he loses everything. He saved my life. Then you both need to disappear for real this time, Keller said quietly. You can't fight this from the shadows anymore. They're coming for you. Before Rachel could respond, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then went out completely. Keller cursed under his breath. Backup power should have kicked in. The next sound was glass shattering. A shot rang out. Get down, he shouted, shoving us under the table. Another bullet cracked through the window, spraying shards across the floor. Alarms wailed. I felt Rachel's hand clutch mine, shaking. Keller drew his gun, scanning the hallway. Stay down. Don't move until I say so. We heard boots, multiple, pounding down the corridor. Then silence. When the lights flickered back, 2 armed agents were dragging a man in black tactical gear across the floor. His mask fell off, revealing a clean-shaven face, late 30s, eyes empty. Keller recognized him instantly. Agent Russo. You were suspended last year for leaking Meridian documents. Russo didn't speak. He just stared at Rachel. She should have stayed dead. Then he spat blood onto the floor. That night, we were relocated to a safe house outside the city. Keller assured us Russo was in custody, but his words didn't comfort me. Rachel sat by the window again, staring into the dark. Every time I think it's over, she said quietly, it begins again. I rested a hand on her shoulder. Maybe that's because this isn't about ending anymore. It's about surviving. She turned to me, eyes glistening. No, Mom. It's about justice. And tomorrow, I'm going to make sure they all pay, every last one of them. Outside, thunder rolled. Somewhere in the distance, I thought I heard the faint echo of another explosion. And for the first time, I realized this war wasn't just against Meridian. It was against the system that let them exist. Rachel's name hits national headlines, but the enemies she's exposed aren't done yet. Someone inside the FBI wants her silenced for good. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us where you're streaming from, because the next chapter takes us deeper into betrayal, where even allies can't be trusted. Chapter 10, The Whisper in the Wires. Morning came with the sound of sirens. Not from our street, but distant, faint enough to make you wonder if they were real or imagined. I barely slept. Rachel had spent the night typing furiously on her laptop, her fingers trembling from adrenaline and anger. By dawn, she had sent her statement and evidence to 6 news outlets, including the Washington Post and Reuters. When I woke up, she was gone from the couch, standing by the window with her phone pressed to her ear. Her voice was calm but tight. Yes, this is Rachel Morrison. You received my file last night. I want to make sure you understand, Meridian Industries falsified those trial results. People died. The documents are real. There was a pause, then her tone shifted. What do you mean you can't confirm the source? I am the source. She hung up hard and exhaled sharply, shaking her head. They're afraid, Mom. Someone's already gotten to them. Who? I asked softly. She looked at me, eyes cold. The same people who killed Crawford. The same people who just killed Oliver. The word killed lingered in the air, sharp and heavy. She said it without hesitation now, like a truth too obvious to deny. The news had exploded overnight. Every station was covering it. Whistleblower's husband dies in suspicious car explosion. Meridian scandal deepens, missing executive's wife reported alive. Rachel's story was becoming national news, just as she predicted. But attention wasn't safety. Attention was gasoline on the fire. Around noon, her phone rang again. The number was unknown. She answered on speaker. Ms. Morrison, a calm male voice said. This is Special Agent Keller with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. We received your documents. We need you to come in for a private briefing today. Rachel frowned. I've been trying to contact your office for weeks. Why now? Because things have changed, Keller replied. There's new information concerning Meridian and your late husband. It's critical we speak face to face. Can I verify your identity first? There was a short pause. Of course. Check the call ID Atlanta field office. You can call back on the public line and ask for me. Rachel looked at me, uncertain. Do you think it's real? I didn't know. But Keller's voice was steady, too official to be an amateur. She decided to take the risk. By 2 p.m., we were in the car, driving to the downtown FBI building. Rachel wore a navy blazer, her hair pulled back tightly. I could see the fear behind her composure. Every red light made her glance in the mirror. When we arrived, security was tight. Keller met us in the lobby, tall, mid-40s, with the kind of quiet authority that made you instinctively trust him. Ms. Morrison, Mrs. Morrison, he said with a nod. Please, follow me. He led us into a glass-walled conference room overlooking the city. The skyline shimmered when I realized I hadn't slept. On the table sat a thin small cabin surrounded by pine trees. Keller slid it toward the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of settling wood. The data you sent is genuine, at the kitchen table, and the Department of Justice has opened an official inquiry, making her look ghostly. But there's something you need to see. I watched her from the doorway. Inside, the same way I used to watch her as a child when she stayed up past bedtime reading by flashlight before the explosion. But this time, Rachel, the stakes were life and death. That's impossible. They think I'm safe here, she said. He was supposed to be dead. Looking up. Keller nodded grimly. Mom. He was seen meeting a man known as Miguel Alvarez, I walked also over, known as rubbing Mia her shoulder. Files. Keller said blinked. They've secured the perimeter. Yes, you're under Keller FBI protection. She's now not who you think she gave is. A hollow laugh. Real name, Mom. Miguel Alvarez. The people who tried to kill me are in the FBI. A professional con artist whose protection doesn't mean anything when your enemies wear the same badge as your allies. At least 4 insurance frauds. I wanted to tell her one disappearance in Mexico. That good people Rachel's still existed. Hands trembled as she turned the page. We'd seen Agent Russo's betrayal. Oliver shaking hands with Mia. I didn't know if I believed it anymore. So he wasn't just cheating. An encrypted message flashed on the screen with them. Check your Keller's inbox. Expression darkened. Trust no one. And possibly against you. Rachel froze. We believe he was negotiating with Meridian's contacts. She opened her email, trying to sell your whistleblower data attachment labeled Project Astra. The explosion might not have been an accident. She read. It could have been a silencing. She whispered. Rachel stared at him. Pale. This is the file you're Crawford saying Oliver was killed because he tried to sell me out. The document contained pages of data, but here's the problem. Someone inside the bureau leaked your location memos from Meridian Industries. The air drained from the room. Buried in the metadata Keller was something worse, a list of names. You're not safe here. Politicians. We can place you under federal protection. Law enforcement contacts, full disclosure, and at the top of that list, Dr. Agent Michael Keller. Rachel's blood drained from my face. If I do that, Rachel, he loses everything. That's the same Keller who saved my life. She looked at me, both need to disappear for real this time. It means his part of it quietly. The leaks, you can't fight this from the shadows anymore. Russo wasn't the traitor. Before Rachel could respond, before we could process it, there was a knock on the door, twice, then went out completely. Rachel snapped her laptop under his breath, motioning for silence. Power should have kicked in through the curtain. The next sound was glass shattering. She whispered. A shot rang out. I felt my heart slam against my ribs, shoving us under the table. Don't open it. Another bullet cracked through the window. Keller stood there in his dark overcoat, alarms pale from the cold. I felt Rachel's hand clutch mine, but there was something off in his eyes. Keller drew his gun, scanning the hallway. Morning, stay down, he said. Don't we had a breach until I say HQ last night. We heard boots. Thought it was best to check pounding down the corridor. Rachel crossed her arms. When
You
the
mean
lights
to make
flickered
sure we're
back,
still here?
2 armed
His
agents were
smile
dragging a man
faltered.
in black tactical
Excuse
gear
me.
across the floor.
Don't play dumb.
His mask
She
fell
snapped,
off, revealing
We
a
know about
clean-shaven
Project
face.
Astra.
Late 30s,
We know about
eyes
the
empty.
bribes,
And
Keller
about you.
recognized him
For a moment,
instantly.
Keller
Agent
didn't move.
Russo. Then
You
he
were
sighed.
suspended last
So
year
you
for
found
leaking
it.
Meridian documents.
Found it.
Russo
Rachel
didn't
echoed.
speak.
You
He
mean
just
you
stared
left
at
it?
Rachel.
He nodded
She should have
slowly.
stayed dead.
Yes. Then
I
he
wanted
spat
you
blood
to.
onto the floor.
Meridian's
That
corruption
night,
goes
we
higher
were
than you
relocated
think.
to a safe
But
house
if I'd
outside
sent
the
it
city.
through official
Keller
channels,
assured us
it would have
Russo
been
was
buried
in
again.
custody.
I
But his
needed you
words
to
didn't
leak it.
comfort me.
I was
Rachel
speechless.
sat by the window
Rachel's
again,
eyes
staring
narrowed.
into the dark.
You expect me
Every
to
time
believe
I think
that.
it's over,
I
she
expect
said
you to
quietly.
survive.
It begins
Keller
again.
said firmly.
I rested
That
a hand
file
on
will
her
destroy
shoulder.
careers.
Maybe
but it
that's
will also
because
paint
this
a
isn't
target
about
on your
ending
back.
anymore.
They'll
It's
come for
about
you harder
surviving.
now, especially
She turned
after
to me,
last night.
eyes glistening.
Rachel stared
No,
at him,
Mom,
searching for
it's
truth
about
in
justice.
his tone.
Then
And
why
tomorrow,
help me?
I'm going to
Because
make
I
sure
used to
they all
believe in
pay
this
every
system,
last one
he
of
said
them.
quietly.
Outside,
Until I
thunder
saw how
rolled.
deep the rot goes.
Somewhere in the distance,
I lost my brother
thought I
to
heard
one
the
of
faint
Meridian's
echo of
defective
another
drugs.
explosion.
This
And
is
for
my
the first
revenge.
time,
I
the word
realized
revenge
this
made
war wasn't
Rachel
just
hesitate.
against Meridian.
For the first
It was
time,
against the
I saw
system
something
that let
flicker
them
in her
exist.
eyes. Recognition.
Rachel's name hits
Two
national
broken
headlines,
souls,
but the
bound
enemies
by
she's
betrayal.
exposed aren't done
Before
yet.
she could respond,
Someone inside
Keller's
the
phone
FBI
vibrated.
wants her silenced
He
for
glanced
good.
at the screen
Don't
and
forget to
blanched.
subscribe.
They found
like,
us,
and tell
he
us where
said
you're
sharply.
streaming from, because
Go.
the next chapter
Now,
takes us deeper
through the
into
window,
betrayal.
I saw
where
two
even
black
allies can't be
SUVs
trusted.
pull up at the end of the gravel road. Men in suits stepped out, not FBI agents, not police. These men moved differently. Efficient. Trained. Dangerous. Rachel grabbed her laptop and the flash drive. Keller pulled his gun and motioned toward the back door. There's a maintenance road through the woods. Take it. I'll hold them off. Come with us, I pleaded. He shook his head. They're not after me. They want her. Go. Gunfire shattered the windows. Rachel grabbed my hand, pulling me through the kitchen. We ran into the forest, branches snapping underfoot. Behind us, gunshots echoed through the trees. We didn't stop until the road opened ahead, a narrow dirt path where a single car sat waiting, engine running. Rachel looked at me, breathless. Peterson. He must have sent it. We jumped in, and as soon as the doors closed, the tires screeched against gravel. Dr. Peterson was at the wheel, pale and shaking. Dear God, he muttered. They moved faster than I thought. Rachel clutched the laptop to her chest. We have to go public, now. Full exposure. Peterson's hands trembled. If you do that, they'll kill you. These people own half the system. You'll disappear before the story airs. Then I'll disappear after, she said. But I won't die quietly. We drove for hours, back roads, no signals, no stops. Finally, we reached a small motel near the Tennessee border. Peterson parked behind the building, hidden from view. Inside the dim room, Rachel connected to a secure line. Once I send this file, there's no turning back, she said. I took her hand. You've come this far. You can't let fear win now. She nodded, tears welling up. I'm not afraid of dying, Mom. I'm afraid of dying without being heard. Then she pressed send. We sat there, listening to the whoosh of data transferring, thousands of pages of truth spilling into the world. When it finished, Rachel closed her eyes and whispered, "It's done." Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains, not the soft kind, but deep and angry, as if the world itself had felt the tremor of what she'd just unleashed. And somewhere, out in the dark, I knew men like Keller, or whoever controlled him, were watching the same storm form over their empire of lies. They had silenced others before. But not my daughter. Not this time. The leak goes viral and Rachel becomes a national symbol of truth. But as the world celebrates her bravery, an assassin is already on her trail. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us where you're streaming from, because what comes next will change everything. The storm has only begun. Perfect. Here's the continuation of Teresa's story, told in her first-person voice, maintaining emotional suspense and coherence. Exact word count, 900 words. Chapter 12, The Storm Breaks. The world changed overnight. By the time the sun rose, Rachel's face was everywhere: news tickers, social feeds, live broadcasts. Whistleblower exposes government pharma conspiracy. Project Astra leak, The woman who dared. I watched from the motel room, clutching a lukewarm cup of coffee as the anchors spoke her name like she was a national hero. But I could see the fear behind her calm eyes. She wasn't safe. Fame didn't protect people like her, it painted a target on their backs. "Mom," she said softly, staring at the TV. "They're calling me brave." "You are brave," I told her. She turned to me. "No. Brave people have a choice." I didn't. I just couldn't stay silent anymore. There was a tremor in her voice that reminded me of when she was a child, standing up to her father after he lost his temper. Courage had always been her curse, she never knew when to stop fighting. Dr. Peterson entered the room, a satellite phone in his hand. "The file's been verified. Multiple networks are mirroring it. Meridian's stocks are plummeting." Rachel exhaled shakily. "Good. Let them burn." But Peterson's expression darkened. "There's more. Someone accessed your backup servers this morning. They're tracking your IP. We need to move again." I felt my chest tighten. "You mean they found us?" "Not yet," he said, "but it's a matter of hours." Rachel grabbed her laptop and began packing. "Then we go west. The Rockies. No cameras, no signals." But before she could finish, my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. "Don't answer it," Peterson warned. I hesitated, but the screen flashed a message that froze me. "Mom, it's me. Don't trust Peterson." I looked up sharply. "Rachel, this says it's from you." Her eyes widened. "What? I didn't send anything." "Then who did?" Peterson stiffened. "Let me see that message." I pulled the phone back. "No. Tell me what's going on first." He hesitated too long, and that was enough. Rachel's tone hardened. "Peterson, if there's something you haven't told us, now's the time." He sighed heavily, lowering his gaze. "There's a reason they're after me too. I wasn't just a scientist at Meridian. I was one of the project leads. I helped design the trial protocols." Rachel's voice cracked with disbelief. "You what?" "I didn't know what they'd use it for," he said, desperate. "They told us it was a neurological treatment, not a weaponized control drug. When I realized the truth, I leaked the first file to Keller." My pulse thudded in my ears. "You used my daughter as bait." "No," he said quickly. "I used Keller. Rachel was never supposed to get involved. But she found something Keller didn't, the child data." Rachel froze. "What data?" Peterson's face went pale. Project Astra wasn't just about adult trials. They tested it on children. They called it Phase Z. Your leak exposed the corporate side, but not the military contracts. That's why they're desperate. You didn't just expose corruption, you exposed war crimes. Silence. Cold, suffocating silence. I felt the room spin. Children. They experimented on children. Rachel looked like she was going to collapse. Then, glass shattered. A bullet punched through the window, splintering the TV. Rachel hit the floor, dragging me down. Peterson grabbed his gun, shouting, "Go! Out the back!" We scrambled out the rear exit as more shots tore through the room. The sound was deafening: chaos, metal, smoke, fear. I could barely breathe. We ducked behind a dumpster. A black SUV idled across the street, engine rumbling. Two men stepped out, faces hidden behind masks. One of them held a silenced pistol. Peterson fired, hitting the hood. "Run." Rachel grabbed my hand and pulled me through the alley. The gunfire followed like a swarm of angry wasps. My lungs burned. My legs felt like lead. Then a sharp scream. I turned. Peterson was on the ground, clutching his chest, blood spreading fast. "Go," he gasped. "Don't stop." Rachel hesitated, tears streaming. "I can't." "Rachel," I shouted. "We have to go." She tore herself away and ran with me. Behind us, another gunshot, final, absolute. Peterson's sacrifice bought us seconds, maybe minutes. We didn't stop until we reached a bridge overlooking a swollen river. Rachel leaned against the railing, trembling. "He lied to us, but he still died for us." I put my arms around her. "He made his choice." She wiped her eyes. Then so will I. No more running. She pulled out her phone and opened a live stream. What are you doing? I asked. Finishing what I started. Her voice was steady as she looked into the camera. My name is Rachel Morrison. If you're watching this, I may already be dead. But before I go, you need to know Project Astra isn't over. The people you saw on the news aren't the real enemy. They're shadows, controlled by something deeper. My name isn't the story. The truth is. I watched her speak, my daughter, the warrior I never knew she'd become. Her courage terrified me. Her fire made me proud. When she ended the stream, the sky began to darken. Thunder rolled in the distance, low and ominous. She turned to me. They'll be coming again. I nodded, gripping her hand. Then we'll be ready. A single flash of lightning split the horizon, and in that moment, I saw two figures moving on the opposite hill. Silhouettes. Watching. The storm had broken. And I knew, deep down, that this wasn't the end of the fight. It was only the beginning of the reckoning. Rachel's broadcast shakes the world, but a betrayal from within will cut deeper than any bullet. Someone she trusts is about to sell her out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us where you're streaming from, because the storm isn't over yet. It's just turning personal. Chapter 13, The Betrayal. When I woke up that morning, I could still hear the thunder from the night before echoing in my mind. Rachel sat by the motel window, staring into the fading clouds. Her eyes were bloodshot, her face pale, and her hands trembled as she clutched her phone. The video hit 1 million views overnight, she said quietly. People are calling me a hero. Others are calling me a liar. I walked to her and placed a hand on her shoulder. You told the truth. That's all that matters. But she didn't look relieved. Truth isn't enough anymore, Mom. They're already rewriting it. Dr. Peterson's death weighed heavily on both of us. The way he'd confessed at the end, torn between guilt and redemption, it left a mark I couldn't shake. Rachel hadn't said much since. She just kept working, hacking into networks, sending encrypted files to journalists she trusted. Every keystroke seemed like an act of war. Then came the knock. 3 soft taps. Measured. Familiar. Rachel's eyes met mine. That's Keller. I froze. You told him where we are. She nodded. He helped leak the second batch of documents. He's one of the good ones. But something in my gut twisted. We'd trusted people before, and every time, it nearly killed us. Rachel opened the door. Keller stood there, soaked from the rain, wearing a grey hoodie and a nervous smile. You two need to move. They're triangulating your signal. Rachel frowned. How do you know? Because I've been tracking them. Meridian hired a new task force. They're not FBI, they're ex-military. They call themselves the Syndicate. He tossed a damp folder on the bed. Inside were photos, grainy surveillance images of Rachel and me at different motels. A timestamp. Locations. Even Peterson's last moments. My heart dropped. They've been following us since the funeral. Keller nodded grimly. They were tipped off. Someone close to you leaked your trail. Rachel stiffened. Who? He hesitated, then looked directly at her. Dr. Peterson. The words hit her like a slap. That's impossible. He had debts, Keller said. A lot of them. Before he died, he took a payout, $500,000 wired to a Cayman account under a false name. My source confirmed it. I wanted to scream. The man who'd died saving us had also sold us out. The betrayal was too sharp, too cruel. Rachel sank onto the bed, her face in her hands. He used me, and I defended him. I knelt beside her. He made his choice, sweetheart. But now you have to make yours. She looked up at me, eyes wet with fury. Then I'll finish what he couldn't. That night, Keller worked on encrypting Rachel's files, claiming he'd send them to a journalist in D.C. named Lauren Chase. I didn't trust him, not fully, but Rachel did. She was desperate, and desperation makes even the smartest person blind. As they worked, I noticed small things. Keller's phone buzzing every few minutes. The way he'd turn his screen away when Rachel leaned in. The faint tremor in his voice when he said her name. I waited until he left for supplies. Then I picked up his backpack. Inside, under a layer of papers, was a small tracking device active, blinking red. My blood turned cold. When Rachel returned from the bathroom, I met her at the door. "We have to go. Now." She frowned. "Why?" "Keller. He's not here to help us. He's marking our location." She looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "No, Mom, you're wrong. He's been risking his life for us." I held up the tracker. "Does this look like help?" She froze. For a moment, I saw the truth sink in, then fear took over. "He said he'd be right back." "Exactly," I said. "And when he comes back, he won't be alone." We packed in silence, tossing what we could into bags. Rachel's hands shook as she slammed her laptop shut. The tension between us thickened with every passing second. Then, through the window, headlights flashed across the gravel. Too late. A convoy of black SUVs rolled into the motel parking lot, engines idling. Men in tactical gear stepped out, moving with military precision. Rachel grabbed my hand. "The back window, go." We climbed out, feet sinking into the wet grass. Rain started again, heavy and cold. I looked back just in time to see Keller step out of the lead SUV, phone in hand. He wasn't wet anymore. "Rachel," he shouted. "Stop. You don't understand." But Rachel didn't listen. She ran into the woods, dragging me with her. Behind us, gunfire erupted. The forest exploded with light and noise. We ran until our legs gave out, collapsing behind an old hunting shed. My lungs burned, my heart pounded. Rachel curled into herself, shaking. "He sold us out." I trusted him. I held her close. That's what they count on, trust. Through the rain, I could still see the flashlights moving through the trees. They were close, methodical, sweeping the ground inch by inch. But I noticed something else. Keller wasn't with them. He'd broken off, walking alone toward the riverbank, talking on his phone. Rachel wiped her eyes. "What is he doing?" I watched carefully. He wasn't hunting us. He was waiting for someone. A boat light flickered on the river. Keller looked at it, then down at a flash drive in his hand. Rachel's voice was cold as ice. "That's my data." Before I could stop her, she stood and walked into the rain. "Keller," she shouted. He turned, startled, as she aimed Peterson's gun at him. "Rachel, wait. It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." His voice trembled. "I didn't sell you out. I'm selling them. Meridian. Crawford's replacements. I made a deal, witness protection, for both of us." "There's no us," she hissed. "You just killed people who believed in me." He took a step forward. "Please. They'll kill us both." I saw her hesitate, and in that second, I knew what she was thinking. Mercy or vengeance? The same crossroads I'd seen in her eyes since this nightmare began. Then, she pulled the trigger. The sound echoed through the valley, swallowed by rain. She stood there, shaking, the gun falling from her hand. "He made his choice," she whispered. "Now I've made mine." We left his body by the river and disappeared into the dark, two ghosts bound by blood and betrayal. Rachel believes it's over, but Keller's death unlocks the final secret. Someone even closer has been pulling the strings all along. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us where you're streaming from, because the next chapter will reveal the betrayal that cuts the deepest. Chapter 14, The Final Secret. The rain didn't stop that night. It came down like the heavens were washing the world clean, but nothing could cleanse what we'd done. Keller's body drifted somewhere down the river by now, swallowed by the current, erased like a sin too heavy to carry. Rachel and I found refuge in an abandoned farmhouse just off the county road. It smelled of damp wood and silence, too much silence. I could hear Rachel pacing behind me, her breath ragged, her hands trembling as she wiped the rain from her face. "He was lying," she whispered. "He had to be." I didn't answer. Because part of me wasn't sure anymore. All I knew was that the girl who sat before me, the daughter I'd raised, loved, and fought for, wasn't the same woman anymore. Something in her had broken. Keller's betrayal had been the last crack in an already fractured soul. When she finally stopped pacing, she turned to me. "Mom, I have to end this." For good. Her voice didn't shake. That's what scared me most. She opened her laptop and connected to a hotspot through her encrypted phone. The blue glow of the screen reflected in her eyes as line after line of code scrolled past. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Finishing it," she said. "Meridian still exists, Crawford's dead, but his partners aren't. The syndicate works for them. I've traced their new headquarters to Arlington. If I drop every file I've got, emails, bribes, test results, it'll destroy them." I hesitated. "That could expose you too. The fake death, the insurance fraud, everything." She gave a sad little smile. "Maybe that's justice, too." Hours passed. I drifted in and out of sleep, my back against the wall, the sound of keys clacking filling the room like a ticking clock. By dawn, Rachel looked exhausted but resolved. "It's done," she said softly. "All of it. Uploaded, mirrored, backed up across a dozen servers." I exhaled in relief. "Then it's over." But she didn't respond. Her gaze was fixed on the screen, where an email notification blinked from Meridian Legal Division. Subject: Termination Notice. Rachel clicked it open. Inside was a single line. "You shouldn't have trusted Peterson." A chill ran through me. That doesn't make sense. He's dead. Rachel's fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Unless." She opened a hidden drive, decrypting old folders from Peterson's server. What she found turned my stomach cold. Hundreds of messages. Hidden transactions. Communications between Peterson and a contact labeled M. Hayes. Each one discussing not whistleblowing but orchestrating it. He hadn't just betrayed us. He had created this. Rachel scrolled faster, tears welling up. He was never on my side. He was feeding both ends, Meridian and me, so he could control the outcome. I stared at the name. M. Hayes, who is that? She searched the database and froze. "It's not a who," she whispered. "It's a what." Meridian Hayes, an offshore holding company owned by, her voice broke off. "By who, Rachel?" She turned the screen toward me. "Oliver Morrison." My heart stopped. "No, that's impossible. He's in jail." Rachel's voice cracked. "No, Mom. He's not. The real Oliver never went to prison." The room spun. I felt the air vanish from my lungs. "Then who?" "His brother," she said. "He took his brother's ID. The real Oliver bribed his way out with Meridian's money and disappeared before the trial. Peterson helped cover it up." I could barely speak. "So the man who stood trial wasn't him?" Rachel nodded. "A decoy. Paid to take the fall." The weight of it hit me like a freight train. Every ounce of satisfaction I'd felt watching Oliver rot in prison was a lie. He'd outsmarted everyone, the FBI, the courts, even us. He was still out there. Rachel slammed her laptop shut. "He's the one funding the syndicate now. That's why Keller found us. That's why Peterson was silenced. Oliver's still controlling it all." I grabbed her wrist. "Rachel, stop. He's dangerous. You can't." She pulled away. "I'm done running, Mom. He took everything from me, my name, my work, my life. I'm taking it back." Before I could argue, she stuffed the laptop into her bag and headed for the door. The dawn light poured in, cold and gray. "I know where he is," she said. The last email trace came from Virginia. A safe house registered under an alias O&M. I followed her out into the morning chill, my chest tight with dread. "Then I'm coming with you." She didn't argue this time. Maybe she knew I wouldn't survive staying behind. We drove east, silent except for the hum of the highway. Rachel's eyes never left the road. The closer we got to Arlington, the heavier the air felt, as if the world itself was bracing for what was coming. By afternoon, we reached a quiet neighborhood lined with trees and expensive cars. Rachel parked a block away, watching a sleek black house through the windshield. "There," she whispered. "That's him." Through the curtains, I saw a figure, broad shoulders, salt and pepper hair, moving easily around a modern kitchen. He looked older, leaner, but unmistakably Oliver. He was alive. Rachel's jaw tightened. "He thinks he won." I put a hand on her arm. "Rachel, think about this. If you confront him now, everything could fall apart. She looked at me, eyes blazing. It already has. She opened the car door and stepped out into the street. I wanted to stop her. God knows I tried. But some vengeance can't be talked down, it has to burn itself out. I followed at a distance as she walked up the driveway. The door opened before she even knocked. Oliver stood there, smiling faintly, as if he'd been expecting her. "Rachel," he said. "You're late." My heart nearly stopped. He wasn't shocked. He wasn't afraid. He knew. Rachel's voice was ice. "You should be dead." He smiled wider. "So should you." The air between them felt electric, years of betrayal compressed into one charged moment. I could feel it, the story wasn't over. It had only just reached the edge of its final truth. Teresa watches as her daughter faces the man who destroyed everything. But when the guns come out, one last secret will change who lives and who dies. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us where you're streaming from, because the next chapter will deliver the revenge you've been waiting for. Chapter 15, The Reckoning. The sun hung low when I stepped up the driveway. Oliver stood on the porch as if he owned the scene, calm, composed, the man who'd toasted while my daughter's coffin was lowered. Rachel moved ahead of me, small and fierce. She didn't hesitate. "Oliver," she said, "or Owen, whatever name keeps you safe. You should have stayed dead." His smile was automatic. "Rachel. You came. Brave." He folded his hands, practiced and untroubled. "You have nothing now. You stole everything," Rachel said. "My accounts, our life, my name. You sold me for cash and champagne." He smirked. "Survival has a price." His amusement faded. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded paper, like a man showing a final card. "You think files change fate? People forget." Headlights skidded down the street. Black SUVs halted. Men poured out, badges gleaming, DOJ, FBI, Homeland Security. Not syndicate gear, official authority. An agent stepped forward. "Oliver Gaines, you are under arrest for insurance fraud, money laundering, conspiracy, and crimes tied to Project Astra. You have the right to remain silent." Oliver paled. "This is a setup," he spat. "No," the agent said. "It's evidence. Stand down." They cuffed him. Cameras flashed, journalists Rachel had primed. He tried to bargain, sputtering rage. "Who turned me in?" he demanded. Rachel's voice was flat. "People who read the files. Victims. Journalists. Truth." They led him away. For a heartbeat his eyes met mine, calculating, unrepentant, then he was gone. I sagged on the porch rail. Rachel sank beside me, trembling. "Does this fix anything?" she asked. "No," I said. "But it puts lies where they belong." What followed was a slow, public unraveling. Meridian's board called emergency meetings. Executives were indicted. Miguel Mia was detained in Guatemala and faced extradition. Shell companies froze. Compromised agents flipped. Keller's circle was exposed. It wasn't tidy, it was legal and loud. We moved into a small apartment under new names. Rachel legally became Rebecca Morrison. We launched Rebecca Morrison Consulting, focusing on corporate ethics and whistleblower protection. The work was small at first, then steady. People wanted help avoiding another Meridian. On the anniversary of the funeral, we returned to the cemetery. The grave that once held Rachel's name lay empty. We planted a sapling beside the stone. The act felt like a benediction, something living and new where there had been a wound. Rachel laughed, a short, surprised sound. "You were terrifying on his porch," she said. "I had practice," I answered. The court cases trickled in. Oliver was convicted and sentenced to 12 years. Miguel's extradition led to prosecutions abroad. Several Meridian executives pleaded guilty. Project Astra's archives were seized and catalogued. The files we'd released became evidence in multiple inquiries and seed for reforms. It wasn't immediate justice. It was months of hearings, testimonies, and slow lawyering. Waiting war on us. Some allies betrayed us, others became steadfast. News cycles moved on only to return with a new indictment. The system worked, grudgingly, on the exposed truth. We spent nights writing workshops, building client lists, and testifying before committees. Each step felt like repair. We turned grief into a blueprint to stop other people's tragedies. One afternoon, months later, I sat with old photos of Rachel weddings, quiet kitchen laughter, a snapshot of her and Dr. Peterson when they were young and certain. They ached. They also mattered. They reminded me why this had to be done. The last signatures came: Oliver's sentence, civil judgments that ordered restitution, settlements that funneled money back toward victims' funds. The practical details were bureaucratic but necessary. They didn't erase pain, but they helped others. We drove back from courthouse steps one dry evening, and Rachel reached across to squeeze my hand. "It's bitter," she said. "But it's something." We planted a second sapling by the empty stone that spring. It was taller now, a small promise. Rachel, Rebecca, whispered into its leaves. I watched her and felt a cautious calm. The world hadn't been fixed, but the lie had been ejected into daylight. The reckoning hadn't been a single thunderclap. It was many small reckonings, files uploaded, journalists persistent, law officers willing to test their own. We'd paid a steep price, friendships lost, nights stolen, trust shattered. Yet truth had become a lever. Life returned in quieter ways. Our consultancy grew slowly. We worked with lawyers, non-profits, compliance teams. We trained executives and helped companies set up secure channels for whistleblowers. That was our revenge, a practical thing that might save someone else. Sometimes, late at night, I held Rachel's hand and remembered funerals and Cancun photos and the raw, hot moment when she'd first pulled back the curtain. The memory hurt, but it was tethered now to purpose. When the final court order confirmed Oliver's conviction, I didn't cheer. I felt a strange, hollow relief. Justice is small and imperfect. It doesn't bring back what's lost. But it builds consequence. We left the cemetery that day under a clean sky. The road ahead was open. The reckoning had come and, painfully, it had left room for life. We had survived the unthinkable and used it to protect others. That, I thought, was the truest form of revenge. We smiled, cautiously and tired. Hook, if revenge is about reclaiming life, then truth is the instrument. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and tell us where you're streaming from, because the story didn't end with the arrest. It began a new life.